systems are an integral part of many stories, whether it's an anime, a webtoon, a comic, a novel, or any form of media. As long as it features heavy action or a complex mechanism that involves external conflict, power systems are indispensable in telling a good story. Don't believe me? Then look no further than all of your favorite shonen anime. Even a mediocre story like Jujutsu Kaisen, yes, I said it, is elevated to a peak level due to its power system. This goes to show how important it is to have a great power system to complement your story. For those works of fiction that already have amazing world building, plot, character writing, and so on, having an engaging, dynamic, and well thought out power system simply adds to its greatness and raises the story to new heights. Today we'll be looking at two of such stories, Reverend Insanity and Lord of the Mysteries. We'll be comparing the two to determine which of them has the better power system, and I believe the answer might not be what you expect.
Oh no!
Okay, so before we begin, I believe it is important to define what a power system actually is. A power system in fiction is the structured set of rules, origins, and limitations defining how characters obtain and use supernatural, superhuman, or specialized abilities. It creates a consistent framework for combat, magic, or technology, influencing the plot, character progression, and world building. I think I saw this definition on Reddit or something, and it perfectly encapsulates what we'll be looking at today, especially with regards to Reverend Insanity and Lord of the Mysteries. If you haven't seen my previous video where I gave a general overview of these two series, my thoughts on them, as well as what I plan to achieve with my analysis today, then I highly recommend you do so before checking out this one. However, for those who are already familiar with the two stories, I don't think it's very necessary. Naturally, there will be spoilers ahead. You have been warned. So without wasting much of our time, let's get into the video. In Reverend Insanity, the primary power system we are introduced to is Gu. Gu is the essence of heaven and earth. They are the manifestations of the great Tao in the case of mortal Gu, or tiny fragments of the great Tao in the case of immortal Gu. More on that later. Gu come in different forms and shapes. Some look like worms, others resemble grass. There are giant frogs, which are Gu, and flowers, centipedes, crescent moons, and so many others which can also be Gu. You get the general idea. Primary emphasis of Reverend Insanity's power system is to refine, nurture, and use Gu. And the ones who can do this are known as Gu Masters or Gu Immortals. They are the cultivators of this world, and they use Gu by providing them with immortal or primeval essence in exchange for mystical abilities that these Gu provide. Now, do not mistake this process for actually feeding the Gu. After all, using your essence to activate the Gu falls under the use aspect of Gu cultivation. You still have to nurture your Gu, which means feeding it. Each Gu has its own criteria for feeding. Some Gu can eat sand, while others only want liquor or blood. Some Gu require special ingredients from cultivation materials, while others get their feeding naturally from consuming concepts in the world. You get the gist, but this also reduces the frequency of their feeding. In essence, while a low rank Gu can require feeding every couple of days and we want something like soil for its meal, for example, a high rank Gu will require several kilograms of a particular rare resource, for example, but after feeding it once, you can relax for a few years before feeding it again. There is a particular saying in Reverend Insanity: raising a Gu is like raising a mistress. Because of how resource consuming this process is, Gu Masters and Gu Immortals must have ways to make money, or else they will struggle to maintain their Gu worms. Gu can also be divided into 9 ranks, same as the Gu Masters. A Gu Master should also use the Gu appropriate for his rank. In essence, a rank 5 Gu Master should have at least one rank 5 Gu to display the appropriate might for his rank. But is such a thing really that easy? No, because the higher the rank, the rarer the Gu. Thus, whether it is by catching and forcefully refining a wild Gu, or refining it from scratch, or fusing 2 Gu to make a higher rank Gu, the difficulty rises the higher the rank. This is why many Gu Masters who reach rank 6 don't even have a single rank 6 Gu worm. It becomes very scarce to find one. Even when such Gu are found, feeding them becomes a challenge. All of these are issues Gu Masters have to deal with. Now that I have addressed the basics of Gu and Gu Masters, let's look at the other important elements. To start with, let's address the paths of Gu Masters. Not to be confused with the pathways in Lord of the Mysteries, paths in Reverend Insanity refer to the different specialty that Gu Masters venture on in their cultivation journey. Some Gu Masters will be Fire Path Gu Masters, while others will be Time Path, Wisdom Path, Star Path, and so on. There are so many paths in Reverend Insanity, and each of these paths have their specialized Gu. As such, there are Gu worms that are suitable for Fire Path, which means that a Time Path Gu Master will not be able to properly utilize that Gu worm, even if it belongs to their rank. For a Gu Master to be well-rounded, their Gu worms must cover 6 functional requirements, which is attack, defense, movement, investigation, healing, storage/logistics. These 6 requirements must be fulfilled for a path to be recognized as legitimate in the world of RI. In essence, Fire Path is considered a viable and legitimate path because it has Gu worms that fulfills all of these 6 requirements. Same as Wisdom Path, Food Path, Time Path, Strength Path, Transformation Path, and all of the other paths in the story. Also, because a Gu Master can have more than one Gu, this is very possible to achieve, so you can cover all of these categories as a Gu Master. Unfortunately, because of the cost of raising Gu, as well as the primeval or immortal essence expenditure that goes into raising Gu, many Gu Masters cannot cover all 6 grounds, and so they often work together in a team. At least those of the lower ranks do. Once you become a rank 6, this changes greatly, but more on that later. You are going to hear me say more on that later a lot. I'm just letting you know that now. Now, where was I? Yes, another thing you need to realize is the concept of killer moves. Think of these as like ultimate jutsu in Naruto, for example, or domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen. They are the trump cards of any Gu Master, and they also feature the use of multiple Gu worms to achieve a terrifying effect. Because each Gu worm consumes essence to activate, Gu Masters can only display their killer moves as their last resort, but using it is always worth it because of how difficult killer moves are to counter and how devastating they can be to the opponent. There are also things known as arrays, which are essentially killer moves activated using Gu worms that have been placed outside the Gu Master so that they can be controlled remotely or by some form of limited proximity. There are honestly many other things I have to say about many of these concepts, and even others which I have not mentioned and I won't mention, but I won't talk about them because we still have a lot to cover. If you want me to make a more detailed RI power system breakdown, drop your thoughts down in the comments below and I might just make that. Now let's move on to the next segment. Still on Reverend Insanity's power system, I believe it is very vital to differentiate Gu Masters from Gu Immortals. Gu Masters exist from rank 1 to rank 5, while Gu Immortals are rank 6 to rank 9. Rank 9 Immortals are referred to as Venerables. This progression in rank is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to differentiating these 2 types of people. This is because while both of these sides use Gu to do battle, there exist fundamental disparities between the 2 that makes all the difference. Why don't we start by addressing the killer moves that I mentioned in the last segment? I said that Gu Masters use several Gu worms to achieve a terrifying effect, right? And that they have limited primeval essence, so they only use these as their trump cards, correct? Well, guess what? Gu Immortals can use dozens to hundreds, if not thousands or hundreds of thousands of Gu to achieve killer moves on a much wider scale. They also don't have to worry about primeval essence expenditure when it comes to using mortal Gu. This is because Gu Immortals have unlimited primeval essence. That's right, a single immortal essence of a Gu Immortal is equivalent to unlimited primeval essence. As such, the same way a Gu Master will use Gu to fight, Gu Immortals fight with mortal killer moves. Gu Masters use their killer moves as their trump cards, while Gu Immortals only consider immortal killer moves to be trump cards. The difference between the 2 is that an immortal killer move requires at least 1 immortal Gu, which makes it costly in terms of essence expenditure. Because of this fact, Gu Immortals have to be very careful while using them. Another major distinction between the 2 is their different cultivation style. A Gu Master advances in rank by nurturing his or her aperture, right? So once a qualitative change has occurred, they break down their aperture walls and advance to the next rank. This is how they achieve their breakthroughs. For Gu Immortals, however, they do this by developing their blessed lands or grotto heavens, accumulating down marks and passing tribulations and calamities to climb to the next rank. Already we can see a big difference in scale and style of cultivating. But the difference doesn't end there. To become a ghoul immortal, you must go through something dangerous called immortal ascension. Those at the peak of rank 5 can shatter their aperture and take the risk to attempt to ascend. This is done by balancing the heaven and earth ki that flows into your shattered aperture while also adding your human ki. These three ki must exist in harmony, and the slightest imbalance will cause the ghoul immortal aspirant to fail. Most fail either because they haven't accumulated enough human ki or because of the tribulations that the ascension attracts. While undergoing this change, a ghoul master will be in a state of constant and euphoric enlightenment. They will receive sparks of inspiration and will be able to commune with the great Tao, receiving answers to their questions. The exceptional ones will even be able to advance immortal ghoul of their choice into immortal ghoul. Also, the kind of blessed land that they're able to create depends on the amount of ki that they were able to gather, as well as other factors. Yeah, this is a good time to even talk about blessed land and grotto heavens in case you are already confused. So a ghoul master has their primeval aperture, right, which is an incorporeal or spiritual space that exists inside of them. It is like their core that can house their primeval essence and their respective ghoul. However, a ghoul immortal has an immortal aperture, either known as a blessed land or a grotto heaven. A blessed land or grotto heaven is a miniature world within the ghoul immortal's body, which serves as their home ground and personal territory. This space can also be taken out of the ghoul immortal's body and placed externally, anywhere that has heaven and earth ki in this world, thus allowing the ghoul immortal to physically enter into their miniature world. The ghoul immortal can also invite others into their blessed land and grotto heavens, so this is useful for transporting allies, for example. Also note that a ghoul immortal can remain aware of whatever goes on in this miniature world of theirs by using their divine sense, which is another thing that ghoul masters do not possess. Rank 6 and rank 7 ghoul immortals have blessed lands, while rank 8 and rank 9 ghoul immortals have grotto heavens. The main difference between them is the sheer size, the level of development, the immortal essence produced, and the kinds of resources that can be found within them. Mortal ghoul rank 1 to 5 are considered manifestations of the great Tao, while immortal ghoul rank 6 to 9 are fragments of the great Tao itself. In the case of the latter, it means that each immortal ghoul is unique. There can only be one of it in the whole world. Unlike mortal ghoul, where many ghoul masters can have the same ghoul, whether by capturing them in the wild or refining them from scratch, an immortal ghoul cannot be replicated in the world. There is only one fixed immortal travel ghoul, there is only one wisdom ghoul, and so on. This is because immortal ghoul are fragments of the great Tao and represent distinct laws of the world. So, while you can increase the rank of your immortal ghoul, someone else cannot make a second immortal ghoul with that same name or quality. It is only if the former immortal ghoul has been destroyed that a new one can be refined. But immortal ghoul are simply too difficult to refine, with many having less than 1% success rate, or if they end up failing mid-activation. All of these and many more offer potential risks and grave consequences to the ghoul master or immortal. I mean, even a rank 9 venerable could meet his doom because his killer move failed. RIP Paradise Earth. Now I'll just go over a few more concepts that make the RI power system so rich and diverse. I won't be able to cover everything here, so like I said, if you are interested in a dedicated video just on Reverend Insanity's power system, you can ask in the comments. Let's start with my least favorite concept, ghoul houses. Honestly, when ghoul houses were first introduced, I loved the concept. Although I feel like they were underutilized and then overutilized at some point, ghoul houses later became an essential part of high-level ghoul battles, especially when it involves one or more organizations. The problem is that only a few of them really stand out in my book. Most ghoul houses, to be honest, aren't very unique and can be kept on fraud watch. But I digress. Ghoul houses are essentially mobile formations that are comprised of different kinds of ghoul. These ghoul work together to create a structure that can be used for different purposes. Usually, a ghoul house has one specific specialty, though it can possess different kinds of methods within that lane. But since these are already established structures and it is very difficult to alter a ghoul house that has already been created, most ghoul houses are rather inflexible. They are very fixed in their abilities. A ghoul house will have one or multiple ghoul as its core, and the highest rank ghoul that makes up this ghoul house will determine its rank. Thus, we can call the Heaven Overseeing Tower, for example, a rank 5 ghoul house due to having rank 9 Fate ghoul, and so on. I already mentioned Dao marks earlier in this video, so I won't spend much time on this concept. So just know that there are many ways to increase your Dao marks or even cleanse your body of Dao marks. There are reasons people undertake this task, especially the latter. For example, let's say I'm a rank 6 Fire Path Gu Immortal who has lived for hundreds of years and I have accumulated Fire Path Dao marks. But then I encounter a great inheritance left behind by a rank 8 ancestor, and this immortal was a water path immortal. I would rather cleanse my body of all my fire path Dao marks and switch paths to a water path because it has a brighter future ahead of me, especially if the inheritance is complete and has all kinds of amazing water path immortal Gu. I should reiterate that most rank 6 Gu immortals do not have a single rank 6 Gu, and so they mainly rely on mortal Gu to use their killer moves. Because of this, finding inheritances can be a good avenue to raise your strength. Speaking of inheritances, these are treasures left behind by deceased Gu masters or Gu immortals for those who are fated. It could be fortuitous encounters that could allow a mortal to become a powerhouse in no time. Some inheritances contain trials that must be passed or some conditions that need to be fulfilled, while others are simply there waiting for whoever finds them. There are two main types of inheritances, righteous and demonic. Righteous inheritances are usually left behind by Gu masters or Gu immortals of the righteous faction, and they are relatively safe. Demonic inheritances are usually the opposite, however, having great danger and could be done by a malevolent force. They may not even have any rewards at the end of the trial. There are also important locations and landmarks known as secluded domains of heaven and earth, which contain innumerable Dao marks and are considered equivalent to rank 9 Gu. Places like Reverse Flow River, Danghon Mountain, Luopo Valley, River of Time, and so on, which exist in legends and have incredible significance to the Gu world, can be used in many ways and are part of the power system. I should add that rank 9 venerables can manipulate Dao marks of their path freely, allowing them to use immortal materials and secluded domains or even refine Dao marks in the environment to fight without even using a single Gu. This is a high level stuff that is only attainable by those at the top anyway. There is also zombification, which allows those at the end of their lifespan to become zombies rather than dying. Zombies have dead apertures, which means they cannot produce primeval or immortal essence. They have to use external means, either by primeval stones or immortal stones, to activate their Gu. After a period of time, their apertures will rot and fade away, which means they won't even be able to store things in that separate space any longer and will have to carry their Gu with them. These zombies also have slow thoughts and are insensitive to many stimulations. However, lifespan no longer becomes an issue for them. Finally, I would like to mention that Reverend Insanity has races aside from humans, known as variant humans. I should have brought this up in the world building video, but I decided to add a bit about them here because each variant human race also has Dao marks unique to their race. Snowmen have natural ice path Dao marks, mermen have water path Dao marks, rockmen have earth and metal path Dao marks, feathermen have cloud path and wind path Dao marks, and so on. You get the gist, right? Humans ought to have human path Dao marks actually, now that I think about it. Alright, enough about that. Another thing I will likely elaborate on in the world building video, but also has relevance here, is Treasure Yellow Heaven. This is basically the marketplace for Gu immortals to exchange Gu worms, Gu recipes, immortal and mortal materials, information, inheritances, and so on. It is essential to the power system because most Gu immortals require this community to properly function. Everyone has different areas of specialty, right? And only by relying on others who have their own unique abilities and experiences can a Gu immortal thrive. Also, remember I said that blessed lands and grotto heavens have to be developed, and this is how Gu immortals advance? Well, the Treasure Yellow Heaven marketplace is important for Gu immortals to buy resources which they would then transfer to their blessed lands to enable it to grow. Alright, now that we've settled that, let's move on to the final segment of the Reverend Insanity section. The Gu power system is honestly one of the best when it comes to versatility and enjoyability because it is such an open power system. You get to see all kinds of wacky displays and introductions in the story. There is kerosene Gu, for example, that can be used for, you guessed it, kerosene. There is Menses Gu that can cause someone to secrete blood from their nether regions. There are all kinds of Gu in this world. It is so crazy that all the Gu we've seen in the story doesn't even account for up to 1% of the Gu that exists in the world of Reverend Insanity. They are simply innumerable. This presents a great opportunity for all kinds of diverse experiences in the story. As long as the core rules are consistent, we can see all manner of unique powers and various applications through killer moves and other expressions within the power system. Strategy is also very important, especially considering the synergy of the parts and the different Dao marks. Apart from mere fighting, cultivation is actually an interesting journey. After all, you not only have to use your Gu, but you must find and refine new Ghu while also feeding them with whatever meal that they specifically require. When you become an immortal, you must attend to your blessed lands by growing different materials that will be useful for you, while also ensuring that your blessed land is nourished so that it can increase your total Dao marks. This is still all while resisting the calamities and tribulations that come up at fixed intervals. When you also look at the fight scenes, they are usually very interesting, featuring a plethora of different abilities as well as schemes and layered strategies. These are also very easy to follow while giving you all kinds of surprises due to the diversity that exists among Ghu worms. The introduction of threats and limitations also restrict characters in many ways, increasing the stakes and adding additional layers and tension to the fight. Honestly, Reverend Insanity's power system is severely underrated in my opinion. When you hear people talk about RI, they usually focus on its themes, the main character, and with people not really emphasizing how amazing this power system really is. It has complexity for sure, but where it really excels is the diversity and enjoyability. The open power system makes it so that there are always refreshing ways to enjoy the story by introducing brand new Ghu or completely unknown parts. But this isn't too excessive thanks to the rules established by the story. As such, not just anything goes in the story and stakes are maintained. In addition to all of this, there's something I forgot to mention earlier, which is the different 5 regions and the suppression they have on Ghu. If a Ghu was born or refined in a certain region of the world, it will encounter some suppression in a different region, preventing it from displaying its full capabilities. The Ghu master will also experience the same suppression, forcing their rank to reduce by 1 until they spend sufficient time acclimating to the new region. For example, if I'm in the southern border and I go to the northern plains, my rank will reduce by 1 based on the expression of my abilities, and the same will go for my Ghu. You can also see how this will play out in a fight, even logically allowing a weaker character, for example, to contend with a stronger opponent while maintaining the established rules that the story has already put in place. What more can I say? Reverend Insanity's power system is one that heavily contributes to the plot, has deep relevance to the world building, and important ties to the overall themes of the story. For example, there is Fate's Ghu, which represents the immutable fate of everyone in the world. Challenging such a thing leads to the climactic fate wars, which many readers of Reverend Insanity consider to be the highest peak or one of the highest peaks of the story. What of Perseverance Ghu, which Fan Yuan obtains after a thematic conflict in Reverse Flow River, a secluded domain of heaven and earth. The Spring Autumn Cicada, Fixed Immortal Travel Ghu, Lifespan Ghu, Hope Ghu, Strength Ghu, Wisdom Ghu. I could go on. In conclusion, this is an excellent power system that balances everything a good power system ought to provide. It offers engaging fight scenes, complexity, functionality, enjoyability, and so much more. Now that we have addressed Reverend Insanity's power system, let's move on to the second section and talk about Lord of the Mysteries.